Hello and welcome to the Grand Cinema Hotel, a podcast hosted by three friends who love cinema. I'm Oliver and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Gus and Nate. Tonight you'll be staying in room 141, The Green Knight, an Arthurian legend adapted and directed by David Lowery. So go ahead, get comfortable and throw on that Do Not Disturb sign as we go on a quest with The Green Knight.
O greatest of kings, let one of your knights try to land a blow against me. Indulge me in this game.
I will meet thee.
One year hence.
What's going on, all my Knights of the Round Table? Thanks for checking back into the Grand Cinema Hotel. As always, if you're listening on YouTube, smash that like button, hit the subscribe thing. If you're listening on any of the podcast listening apps, sign up for notifications so you can let know when we drop our newest episodes. And with that, we are talking about one of the films that, I think it honestly kind of led to us starting this podcast, The Green Knight, 2021, written, directed by David Lowery. What a piece of cinema this is.
Gus here. How's it going, guys? Nate, this is the movie that brought me and you together
I
as
know.
friends. I did not know you before we went to go see this movie, and I felt like this was kind of like a litmus test.
That's
like when you walked out of
exactly.
the theater and you're like, "Oh, that was fucking sick." I was like, "All right,
All right, we could be
I can fuck
homies.
with this guy."
All right, we cool.
I know me and Alvaro had been very excited to see this movie for a very long time, and I'm sure you were as well. But yeah, like honestly, years in the making. Like I think probably like 2019 we had started getting excited about this, and then 2020 got delayed to 2021. But honestly, I do think it probably worked out for the better.
I think so
that
too.
It was delayed because I can't even remember the last time I had been this hyped for a movie for that long.
And
then
for
it to
pay off exactly. And I was reading that apparently David Lowery, he said he was kind of unhappy with the cut that would have been released in 2020, and it gave him like an extra 6 months to work on it, and then he kind of like perfected it, I guess. So I think it worked out.
I think you can definitely see that extra work put in. Like I think the effects are pretty outstanding, except for maybe like one or two things. And I just think that the pacing, the editing, the fact that he had that extra time to go through and like it feels so precise.
Yeah, it's
the
very
movie.
like
it doesn't feel
meticulous.
like anything is out of place, even though it's kind of a very long movie. I think that's due to the nature of it, like the fact that it's like
It's a quest,
movie.
yeah,
Those
exactly.
always feel long, but everything in it feels just like perfectly crafted and precise, and like someone who really knew exactly what they wanted to get out onto the screen. And I think
Everything's
they
there, yeah.
accomplished that.
Everything's there for a reason.
Ro, how do you
Yeah.
feel about The Green Knight?
What's up, guys? Just obviously you guys are doing a great job of describing the same way I feel about it. I think truly majestic is the way that I feel about it every time I watch this film. I was looking forward to it because David Lowery, me and Gus had seen The Ghost Story together. I really liked that film, and then I ended up recommending it to Nate too. And so I don't know. I really like how there seems to be like a theme of time in both of these films. So I like his approach to things, and I think the methodicalness of this movie and its way of being a unique fantasy entry at the time that it came out is really what stood out to me. And I think I've thoroughly thought about the film probably at least once a day ever since, in terms of visuals, in terms of wanting to be able to make a story that I know. Well, I read about The Green Knight, the actual story, like in middle school. I'm sure you guys did too.
Yeah, in high school, I think I saw.
And so it's interesting because it's always been a story that no one knows the author for. And it's also like one of those that even then and now people are kind of like, what is it trying to say? And I think for a movie to evoke that so well, in terms of even when you watch the movie, you're like, for some, it's like, what is the point of this movie, or what is it trying to say? And for it to be such an open-ended book, I think is such masterfully crafted by David Lowery. And that's why this movie, like, I absolutely love this movie, as we've spoke about before.
Yeah, I think that, David Lowery, I mean, especially, A Ghost Story and then The Green Knight, he's just really good at doing these, like, very existential movies, I feel like, and he does a really good job on, like, honing in these, very, like, internal like emotions and like the questions of morality and
Exactly.
what is right, what is wrong, and how to like better yourself almost, and to transform that into something like the Green Knight that is so visually striking and almost not, it's not super on the nose almost. It is like a quest. It is this fantasy story, but at the end of the day, it's about morality and changing yourself for the better.
And even though it's so old, like it's one of these very like 14th century
Yeah,
tomes or
yeah.
something like that, and like I was reading that they don't even know who they don't even know who wrote it, right? And that there's only like one original copy of this thing that like survived all of these years, and even there, like there's no sign or indication of like where did this even come from. So I've always thought that was super interesting. And then just kind of bouncing off what you guys said, I felt like when they were marketing this movie, they kind of I felt like it was marketed correctly. Maybe not pre-release, but once it was out, they kind of shifted the marketing angle, and they were really going with like this is like existential. This is a tale of a man becoming a man. You know what I mean? And one of the cool things I had seen when I was just watching all of that marketing when it first came out was Ralph Ineson was doing the narration for all this stuff and just completely fucking selling it, making you even more
exactly.
excited for when you hear that fucking voice, right? But so this story has had so much inspiration on everything that's come after it, and even fucking J.R.R. Tolkien referred to it as a window of many colored glasses looking back into the Middle Ages. And he was one of the most important like scholars of the time who really pushed for this story. Like, no, this is an important piece of literature from this time that is really just, kind of has its not for it to be a pun, but it's like branches everywhere.
Yeah, it's rooted.
You know what I
It's
mean?
rooted
It
in
really
everything.
is rooted in these like almost all morality tales, like the story of Gawain or Garwin or Gawain,
Yeah.
however they say his name, which they say it like 3 different ways in
Yeah,
this
they
movie
do.
as well, which I always think is cool. But yeah, man, I really fucking love and adore this movie, and I know we all kind of feel the same about that.
The other little niche thing that this movie really does for us three at least is like just knighthood in general. We're all kind of really into Arthurian legends, and morality of knights is always something that I think transcends time as we're like speaking, just because it's kind of based on very traditional, branched in, like you said, almost in traditional values that I still think any moral human would want to follow. So I think that's what this movie does really good in terms of every one of his quests kind of takes down those 5 pillars of the knight,
Yeah.
and then we get the stars everywhere. And so I just think it's just masterful execution in every possible way.
I also think to subvert it being like what would you call it? Like The King with Timothy Chalamet, or like one of
Yeah.
those other night movies where it is a little more action based. The fact that there's no fights in this movie, you only get one quick like cut scene of a war that's going on, and then for it to just be about this guy who is not really worthy of anything, but it's more about his quest to become worthy. And then even then you're kind of questioning halfway through, like, well, why does this make you a man? You know what I mean? Like, it really is so existential, because I don't want to say it feels useless, but it doesn't feel like it's actually gonna fix the problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like with our character.
Exactly, because he even says so. He's like, I just do this one thing, and then all of a sudden I'm a knight. And it's like, well, yeah. It's like, that's how it works. You get your one story, and all of a sudden you're kind of like, forever entrenched in these, legends. And it's just kind of like, all right, I guess that's how it works. But it's a lot more than that. And I think that this is what this movie dives into.
It definitely has that A24. I know it's distributed and produced by A24, but it feels more like an A24 movie than most of them.
Yeah,
You know
it
what I
does.
mean? Like, especially when you get to the end and you're kind of like, what?
You
Like,
son of a bitch.
You know what I mean?
yeah, for real.
But for me, and I know for the three of us, it was highly satisfying to have a movie end like this, like the way it does.
Yeah, honestly, because like movies like this, and I try not to do it so much anymore, but like when we go into them so hyped and been waiting for so long, a lot of the times I'm almost kind of let down, or like, oh, I wish it would have done this or this. But for me this movie exceeded my expectations. And anytime I think about it, or like when I rewatch it, I'm just like, dude, this movie really is everything I could have wanted and more. I just, it's just a really special movie to me.
I mean, of all the fantasy that we have right now, like I would say we're in another golden age of fantasy. Like we've had The Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter,
Game of Thrones.
the TV show versions of these things as well. Like it all does kind of fit in the same bag. You know what I mean? And I feel like The Green Knight was so interested in just kind of going the other way and showing you something that could have been a miss, but I just think it was so well executed that I was fully entrenched in what David Lowery was going for. And I mean, I know we saw it with like a kind of a big group, and I know
Yeah.
some people were disappointed. Some people thought, like, maybe it'd be a little more action based, but I don't know. It was just so refreshing. Like, that's
I thought
how
so,
I always
too.
feel about when I watch this movie, is that I'm like refreshed that like this is how you could like subvert this expectation and make it something so like one of a kind.
Yeah,
I really
very-
can't think of any other movies
No.
that feel like this movie.
I can't either.
Or not in the fantasy genre, at least. I'm not gonna condemn every other movie ever.
No,
but-
because there are so many fantasy. I mean, most fantasy movies are quest based. You know what I mean? Like there is a goal and there's an objective and there's these little side things that you have to play out through along the way. But a lot of those are like revolves around violence or things like that. But this is just like you said, it's so unique and one of a kind. It is really refreshing. Like you
This
said,
could have been like a Guy Ritchie's King Arthur. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Where it's just like he's riding elephants in the mountains.
He's
and-
fighting the giants and like all this shit. You know what I mean?
But just for all of these things to kind of be there, but just to be, I don't want to say background pieces, but just like they're part of the story in the way they should be. You know what I mean? It's not a spectacle movie, even though it's like so visually beautiful.
yeah, for real.
But it's not there for the spectacle, which is, I guess, kind of how it was marketed. Like, I could see when you watch the trailer, if you think like this, oh shit, A24 is gonna make like a Guy Ritchie's King Arthur.
Yeah.
Like, that'll probably be like really out
He's gonna be
there.
fighting this tree
But
man.
it's
But
just so different, and like that's always how I feel when I like walk away from this movie, because I've seen this shit like 8
I
times.
know,
already.
exactly.
You know what I mean? But yeah, man, I could gush all day without actually even getting into it. But I think we should probably start with the cast.
yeah,
right?
good cast, great cast. I think
Dev
everybody
Patel,
played a great role,
this
dude.
is one of my favorite performances by an actor in any movie I've ever seen. And I wasn't really a huge Dev Patel fan before this. Like, I'd seen him in a few things, but I feel like this is his like coming out moment. You know
I think
what
so
mean?
too. This was like his really, his ability to act, and I think when you have actors that get to play those introspective roles, that's when you get to see a lot of the acting prowess that they kind of have. It's more based on emotions rather than theatrics, I guess. And
Yeah.
I think he crushed it. So
Definitely. And his character, what do you guys want to call him? Gawain, Gawain.
I don't even know. I'm no matter what we pick, I'm going to switch it up.
But I mean, when you would expect going into this movie that he's gonna be, some noble knight, or
Macho
that he
Man
would
Randy
already-
Savage.
that he would already be a knight, right? And to tie it back to another A24 film, this guy is more of like a Howard Ratner than he is a fucking King Arthur.
He really is
You
just
know
kind of
what
a
I
piece
mean?
of shit.
Like, our introduction to this guy is he's hanging out in the brothel asleep.
Hungover
which
as shit on Christmas, yeah.
Smells like he's been drinking the sacrament. You know what I mean? He can't even find his shoes. Like, that's
No.
what kind of night this guy has. You know
His,
what I mean?
his prostitute girlfriend's like cleaning him up. You know what I mean? It's
Exactly.
like, damn. Like,
He
all
knows
right.
a lot of the ladies on the first name basis.
Yeah,
They're not
exactly.
surprised to see
He
him
spent
around.
a lot of time there.
Yeah, I respect it. Yeah, Howard
kinda
Ratner.
sick, kinda
yeah,
sick.
pretty tight.
But one of the very first lines he even has, and it ties back to, or well, I guess it ties back to it in the very end, is that he says he's not ready. Like, somebody asks him if he's a knight, like just some NPC background character, right? But he's drunk, he stumbles, and he falls down, and he just keeps saying, "I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready." And at that point, I didn't really understand what was going on, because it's so early into the movie. But I guess I was expecting him to be a knight, like, in this movie. So that was the first way to kind of like
subvert
yeah, to
almost.
subvert I wanted to keep saying subject. To subvert my expectations. It was like, oh, okay, like, I thought we were going to get a story of a guy who's already kind of polished, you know what I mean? But I think this made it just like 10 times
Yeah,
more
very
interesting.
far from it. And even before we get that, I think the opening scene, the kind of like monologue with "this is not a Sword of the Stone" story, like that shit's just so cool, man. Like,
Not about that kid.
I was in 30 seconds. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
it's like,
was
all right,
oh,
let's fucking go. And what I was reading about it, I guess that voice, that weird like witchy voice that they use, it's David Lowery and his wife's voice like laid into each other, like mixed together, and that's how
Really?
they got that weird little I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, so good. I mean, I assumed it's supposed to be his mother.
Probably.
Or like the fox.
Or
like,
some-
telling the
yeah.
story. But I'd never really been able to confirm that.
that
but
part on the rewatch is much more important.
It
It's like
is.
on the first time, you see the cool imagery, right, of his skull on fire. But I think on rewatches, that's when you're like, it tells you from the get go.
You know what it reminds me exactly of is The Northman, when it literally just like lays out the story in the very beginning,
yeah,
and it's
exactly.
like, okay, cool, and then you watch, you're like, oh fuck, I should have paid a little more attention to that. Like you told me what's up,
exactly.
Much like Shrek.
Much
Also
like Shrek.
Why does Shrek always go back
The
to
greatest
everything?
animated movie of all
No,
time.
but I mean that is a classic fairy tale
Yeah,
thing.
it
you
is.
know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like if
exactly.
you watch any of the classic Disney movies, like this is kind of how they start. Like even stuff like Sword in the Stone
Yeah.
or fucking, which is the movie I always think of when I think of this movie, because I feel like Gawain in this movie is more like that version of King Arthur than he is like the Excalibur's
Right.
version of King Arthur. You know what I mean? But I've always kind of enjoyed that with like medieval stuff, or even like things like Midsummer, where they kind of lay the whole story out before you. And you know, I'm not really against knowing the plot, but because the details matter so much more. You know what I mean? Like you could tell me what's gonna happen in a movie, but I'm still gonna have to find out for myself because there's no way you're gonna fill it in. Like, I what am I trying to say here? Like that doesn't really bug me in movies, and I know for some people it kind of does because like you just told me everything that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But for me, it
Like,
fucking
but I want to
works.
see it. How does it happen? Yeah, I feel you.
Exactly. It is about the how, not the what happened.
Yeah, you get like 4 highlighted moments in the story, in the book or whatever it may be, but you don't get the actual emotional journey that this movie is what it's really all about. So I think kind of agreeing with you, it doesn't deter you at all from what it like. If anything, I think what I'm saying, why it's more important on the second, or why it stands out more on the second viewing, is knowing the ending. Is that you get your answer with the ending. There is no open-ended answer if you paid attention to the beginning.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why it's much more important here than it would be maybe in other presented films like this.
Yeah, it's like you can read the Spark Notes, but you didn't read the book. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's different.
It worked for high school, but not for...
Exactly.
Journeys
You can pass the
Nighthead.
test, but you don't know what's going on.
So Gawain is just, he's kind of a scumbag, honestly.
Yeah, he is.
Right? He's pretty scummy, and he gets invited to the Christmas meal, like breakfast.
Yeah,
lunch,
this
I
is
don't know.
honestly kind of like a Christmas movie. I think that's kind of cool too.
That is really sick.
Tight.
I'm always gonna. I mean, I watch it like once a month, but I would definitely be watching this around Christmas. And that scene really kind of brings us to almost everybody. You know what I mean? Like all of our important characters are really introduced here. We see his mother,
Yep.
who's played by Sarita Chowdhury, and she's been around for a very long time. She's worked with Denzel Washington back in the day. I mean, she's done just countless movies and stuff like that, but I haven't really been too familiar with her, but this role is fantastic as
She
well.
kills it, yeah.
She's in After Yang.
Oh yeah, she is, huh? That's post this movie though.
Didn't I'm saying, yeah. That was the
But
last one before
that is the
or
other
after.
movie I've seen her in recently.
Sorry to cut
I would
you
say our
off.
introduction of King Arthur is like one of my other favorite characters in
Yeah.
this movie. Like I feel like this is such a good representation of Arthur that I don't know if I've really seen in anything else, but
It's just interesting because, like, in a lot of these fantasy movies or whatever, you get kings that are so unapproachable almost, that are just, like, almost too big to be real. And then you get somebody like his portrayal in this movie where he is just kind of like, well, what's going on? Like, I kind of want to get to know you. Like, he seems very approachable and like a normal person almost.
I think that has to do a lot with David Lowery's approach to how this is a highlighted for Sir Gawain. Not a knight either yet, but then we also get Arthur past his quote-unquote prime.
Right.
And I think what's really brilliant here is the whole time in this film, nothing is ever mentioned. There is no Arthur mentioned. There is no Round Table mentioned. There is no...
Excalibur's not mentioned
Nothing,
by
exactly.
name.
Yeah, the only thing that you get is what you know previously from myths and legends or whatever.
Exactly. And I think that's what this film executes really well in terms of that's why we're not here for that. And if you already know these things, and these things will connect for you, but that's not what this film is
Yeah.
about. And that's why I think you don't necessarily have to know about those things to watch this movie. You're just watching a knight's quest to become a knight.
It just adds a little depth. And then, of course, you get A24 fan favorite Katie Dickey,
Yep.
Yeah.
playing Guinevere in her post Lancelot, fling.
I wonder if when they're saying that like you should sit in this seat because its owner is away and no one knows when he's gonna return, like if it's
It's Lancelot?
it's probably Lancelot's
Probably.
seat, right?
Yeah, I would
But,
think so.
I kind of wanted to stick on Sean Harris for a bit because
Mm-hmm.
even though he is playing Arthur and he's the king, you know what I mean? He's the wielder of Excalibur and all these things, the master of court and castle. But I do love that it's not about him, and he gives like such a different performance than you would expect out of a king. Like he's old, he's decaying, he has toothaches. He can barely do anything other than whisper. He can barely handle his sword.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is a very phallic reference, honestly. if you
Yeah,
ask me.
it is.
Can't even get it up. But I also see him as like a regretful king, like
Yeah.
not for the things that not for like the conquering that he's done, because this speech that he gives to his knights about like molding the land with their hands and like the enemies quaking in their boots when they see them. It's about that he's never reached out to Gawain before, and like now in his dying days, like I'm sure happens to most people, he's regretful that he's kind of ignored like the family side of what it means to be a king. Like
Yeah.
obviously this guy doesn't follow the Don Corleone school, you know?
Yeah, family.
But I just really love how like emotional and like sentimental that scene is between Gawain and Arthur, where he's like, you know, I never asked you to like sit on my lap when you were a boy, or like I never really took part in like getting to know you, and like it's Christmas and I want to build bridges, and I just it's like so sweet, you know
It
what I
is.
mean? It's definitely not what I was expecting out of a King Arthur, or not a King Arthur movie, but like an Arthurian legend, like that just like tender sweetness.
And it ties into the overall point of the story, which is, you know, like rectifying those wrongs and changing your behavior to make a more positive impact for yourself and the people around you. So, you know, it's everywhere in this movie.
And tying it back to Kate Dickie, I feel like she is also really complimentary to Arthur in this role of like she's giving like Gawain like motivational like tips of like, you know, like you see all these legends, like don't do this idly, like you go for it, you know what I mean? Like you could be somebody, and like, you know, Gawain, like most young men, is feeling kind of
Yeah.
lost or whatever, but I feel like the king and the queen just kind of reaching out their hand and being like, we've noticed like who you are and like kind of how you've become, and like even we kind of think
You're
like,
damn
yeah,
bad,
you-
homie. Like,
yeah,
like
bro,
you need
it's time to
help.
become a man.
Yeah. Grow up.
But they do it with like a loving push.
It is,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? Instead of just like sending them out into the world. You
Exactly.
Know what I mean? And you know, it ties it back more with the mom too. We in this version of the story, Gawain and Morgan Le
Morgan Le
Fay,
Fay, yeah.
their brother and sister, which they have been in other things, but usually it is it's a contempt. You know, it's out of contempt. You know what I mean? One of them is usually trying to kill the other
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
So just this whole like familial, tender vibe that the movie gives off is just, that was another reason why I found it so refreshing.
Yeah, because everybody wants him to succeed. Like, everybody wants him to do what's in his best interest, and the only thing that's holding him back is himself, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, here we get some sick fucking sequences. Too.
This is my favorite scene of the movie. I just, like, technically, this whole round table scene is fucking, from start to the Green Knight riding off, is
I
just
think
incredible.
here we can kind of, you know, blend the segments of like talking about the cast and talking about the movie, because I feel like this part just it blends the entire thing of like what makes this movie so good, right? So King Arthur's giving his speech while Morgan Le Fay is doing her magic
like
ritual.
witchy
Yeah, she's
witch
conjuring
stuff,
the
yeah.
Green Knight.
Yeah.
And the way this shit is shot, dude, like you see them in tandem going back and forth, like between the king and between Morgan Le Fay, and dude, it's just so
And
fucking sick.
I think this
Like,
probably plays into those 6 months that he had to kind of mess around with the editing and like really, you know, make everything mesh as well as it did. I don't think you probably get something like this without it.
So I wanted to bring up that the cinematographer was Andrew Palermo, and I feel like this is the perfect time to bring him up because so much like so many interesting lighting choices. The pacing of like of them walking. I'm explaining it so dumb, but like the way he shot the two characters together and like when they edited it and synced it up, it's just like such perfect
It
cinematography,
is.
honestly. And then you have like the matte painting in the background that makes the hall look way bigger.
Massive, yeah.
Here comes the effects. You get the Green Knight. You know what I mean? Like you get the cool lighting with Excalibur. You get the cool lighting with Merlin when he's like
Merlin, when he
does the
closes his
vibe check.
eyes, he's got like the tattoos, bro. It's so sick. The vibe check. Yeah.
You get Merlin vibe checks the Green Knight. He's like, nah, this isn't.
He's like,
checking
this
out,
is some
bro."
fucked up, bro. This is some fucked up shit.
Vibe check. Seriously.
Who do you
but
know here?
Don't you feel like this scene for all three of us was kind of like, okay, we're in good
Let's
hands. Like,
fucking
this is a
go.
fucking
Yeah,
sick
it's just
movie,
because, like,
right?
you know, you get that intro with the whole monologue, and then, you know, scene by scene, and you get this. It's just like, here we go, dude. Like, it just keeps going and going.
Becomes a horror movie really quick too.
Yeah,
It
for like
does.
10 minutes, it's a horror movie,
It is.
right? And that's got to do with, you know, the makeup design of the Green Knight, it all being practical.
The prosthetics
the
are
sound
insane.
design is phenomenal,
Yeah.
dude. Like I'll never forget that sound of him like dismounting the horse and like
The creaks of the branches,
yes,
and
you know what I mean? Like Groot could never, bro. But
Groot kicking ass.
Papa Groot, dude.
you know, you get possession in this scene.
Yeah.
You get that cool green lighting when the Green Knight fucking possesses her, right? It turns into The Exorcist for
It
like half a
does.
second. You get fucking just so many fucking good things about this movie. Like every time I watch this movie on Blu-ray, I like rewind it like 2-3 times because I'm like, this is my favorite part of the entire
It's so
movie.
good.
The sound design, even in the way the horse gallops.
Yeah, the horse trotting on the like cobblestone floor. Oh my god.
And we see that Gawain will take up this challenge because all of these legends that we're hearing about, they're all a little too pussy.
They're
to
like,
do
well,
it.
I've done my shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good.
I also think too that this much magic at one time is kind of probably unsettling. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
because that's even Merlin. That's why he's like, bro, what is going on? He's like, I didn't do this. He's like, this is some weird
this is some
shit.
giga magic right here, bro.
Yeah.
Like this isn't like fucking. Oh, I can see into the future. You know what
This
I
is
mean?
not a crystal ball.
This is all the attempt of Sir Gawain's mom to get him out of the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the biggest.
Yeah, I mean that's our huge reveal here. Right?
That's what
That
is
this
kind
a
of
mommy
funny.
movie.
Yeah, exactly. This whole movie is a mom just trying to get her son to do some shit. You know, like go get a job, guy.
Like, you should be a king. I could look into the future, but I need to like start this in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, the whole segment with the actual knight getting his head cut off, Arthur letting him know, be like, remember, it's just a game. All those are just little nods to things that were going to be revealed down the line in the film. And I think, once he gets his head cut off and he kind of runs away with it and laughs, like that's one of my favorite scenes
So
in
good.
a long,
It's like a
long
Headless
time.
Horseman vibe, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And the sets, just learning about just how they use a lot of the CGI to change the sky up and stuff like that. Like the way it looked, it just looks set in time, very like stuck. Something obviously we different parts of the world where they shot this looks like this, but for us that we live in sunny California, like I think that's what really gets me involved in this movie.
Yeah, man, this scene just fucking lays out everything
It
for
does.
you because you get to understand Gawain more of like how he's immature and
Exactly.
how obviously he's not ready to be a knight because like these more reserved legends who are like, I want to tread carefully into this. And then you see when he does like cut off the Green Knight's head that everyone in the court is kind of like,
Bro, what are you doing? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to
Yeah.
talk about. Is like that's just another testament of how foolish and like immature he is, and like how his youth kind of like holds him back. Is like he feels like he has a need. Like he told you, he told you, the Green Knight told you that whatever you do to me, I'm gonna do to you, and then he felt the need to cut his fucking head off when you could have like just sliced him on the shoulder, gone back in here, got your shoulder sliced, and that's a cool story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, like you had to chop the fucker's head off, and everybody's like, bruh.
it really shows
right.
how he doesn't follow the values of being a knight.
No.
Like that he doesn't even think of those things.
He doesn't
of,
think.
like,
Yeah.
You know, knights are supposed to be honorable. Be like, so how is it honorable to cut a guy's head off
When he's
who's,
trying to play a game with
presenting
you?
to you? Like, hey, go ahead. I'm gonna let you hit me first. Like, yeah, well, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
and I think the Green Knight he almost kind of like baits him into it by kneeling down and sticking his head out like
Mm-hmm.
that. But it's like it's your decision to make, which plays into what I
He
think we're
clearly
talking
said that
about.
in the beginning when he enchanted her to say what he wanted her to say, and it is interesting that he just chose to like. I guess it's again, Kate Dickie's character is like, you don't have a story yet, right? And that's the story that's about to make him be able to sit with them and actually have earned
Mm-hmm.
it.
So from there, like a whole year has to pass,
Yeah.
right? And there's a small time skip. We see now that Gawain has really become kind of somewhat legendary
Yeah.
because he does have a story. He chopped the magic dude's head off.
Yeah,
He got to
exactly.
keep the axe.
Yeah.
You know?
The axe is sick.
Yeah, it really
That
is.
is sick.
That is one of the bad CGI moments in the movie, though. The grass like growing on
Oh,
the
yeah.
cobblestone or whatever,
Yeah.
like that looked awful. 6 more months, please.
Come on now.
But a year has passed, but not much has really changed. People's perception of him has changed, but we still see he's doing the exact
Mm-hmm.
same things. We get a line about him like where he's in the bar, he's drunk, he's eating some porridge or some
Yeah.
shit, and the guy tells him like, "Oh, the guy who cut off the Green Knight's head, but he doesn't. He leaves this place on his knees most nights, and his mother's a witch."
Exactly.
Which is a scene I love. I think it's so
That is
funny,
funny.
to throw that in, but I would say here's probably a good time to bring up the character Essel, played
Mm-hmm.
by Alicia Vikander, because although we do see her in the beginning, we get to really kind of dive into that relationship. That
You
and
understand her
Gawain have.
motivations, and yeah.
And I wouldn't say that necessarily I don't want to say she holds him back, but I do think she's more in line with how he wants to kind of live his life. You know what I mean? Like she has a line where she tells him like, why greatness? Like why is goodness not enough? Like why do you have to go why do you have to go do these things? Like, why can't me and you just live a normal life? But I feel like that's what Gawain wants, but he knows that, like,
I can't
I
keep
have
doing
to
this.
do
yeah.
this, like, because he just feels like he needs to level up. You know what I mean?
I need to level the fuck up. I need to get some XP, bro.
I'm trying to get my bag up, girl. I'm trying to get a real lady.
I liked when she's like, I already have all your gold. That shit's so funny to me.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Down bad Gawain.
Exactly.
But you know, the time is passing, and he's trying to decide, like, what is he gonna do? Like, if this was just a game, do I really need to go through with it? And then we kind of get a scene of King Arthur and his mother, like, chastising him again. Of like, bro, nothing has changed, and it's been a whole year. Like,
you're still lame, bro.
like, don't you realize you're gonna have to go do this shit?
You're still a lame.
He hasn't prepared at all. Like,
No training.
nope. He's going
Still
out.
made it
He's going
worse.
out raw in that world, bro.
I know, bro. If I had to fight a 7-foot green monster, I think I would at least do some
do
kind
do
of
some
training.
sort of prep. Yeah.
No,
No.
he's like, I just be fucking at the brothel.
He's like, I
And
thought it
beating
was a
up other
game.
drunks.
He's like, that was for real?
Yeah, for real.
He's like, I wasn't drunk. I wasn't dreaming that. That actually happened.
oh fuck.
But I really love this scene of, you know, King Arthur's looking real Jesus-like. You know what I mean? He's got the hair brushed back. He's like, didn't you hear me calling you?
I know. Didn't you hear the bells? Like, damn, it's so good.
You know, Gawain stumbling into the night. You know, he's embarrassing himself in front of his king.
Mm-hmm.
And his mother's in the background watching. And, you know, King Arthur just kind of lays it down for him. Like, is it wrong for me to want you to be great?
That's great. I love that
know,
part.
Right? It's kind of like, damn, bro. How are
Like,
you
should I
gonna do
not
that?
feel like this for you? It's like, fuck, I suck, dude. Like, God
He was
damn.
like, if Gawain was a little more emo, he'd be like, bro, since when do you care about me?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're not my dad.
You're not my dad, Alfred.
Exactly. Very emo Batman vibe.
Not emo enough. He
No.
just kind of takes it in.
He
and,
does.
You know, he even kind of has that, like, dog between his tail mentality of, like, he's getting scolded. Well, I guess everybody just hates me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's very like Eeyore cowardice.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. And it's kind of like at this point in the movie too, it's kind of unthinkable that he's really gonna go on this quest and
Or come back at all. You know what I mean?
yeah, which is another great point because Gawain says that to King Arthur, like, what if I should face death? Like, bro, that sucks.
Yeah, he's
know
like,
what
well,
I
you
mean?
set yourself up in this position, so.
Yeah, and King Arthur just tells him, like, then you would be one of many men who has, like, seen an earlier death than they've, like, deserved or whatever. But, like, bro, you gotta chalk it up to the times, bro. Like,
Yeah,
these are the
big
times.
truth. Big truth.
How did you feel like when we were watching this movie? Like he gets like blessed, I guess, right, by the church, and then he's off on his journey.
Yeah.
And that tonal shift of like how slow the movie becomes from there, did that kind of throw you guys off?
Not necessarily. I mean, I guess I'm kind of used to that from, you know, a lot of like quest type movies. I feel like the quest is always a little more slower than the beginning. You get a lot of build up and then it's all of a sudden it's like, okay, well now I'm by myself. You know what I mean? It's kind
Yeah.
of like Lord of the Rings.
I was
almost,
just gonna say that I know
you know?
I know you've seen the extended cut, so you're like, I can handle watching walking.
Yeah, like that's fine with me. It's like, all right, we got to go do this and then all right, we're walking. So
I remember the first time we saw this, I told Alvaro that I was like, that's when I kind of knew, like, oh, this is gonna be a different movie.
yeah, and plus I don't think like, you know, the slowness of maybe nothing happening didn't really bother me because the scenes are so beautiful. Like when he's leaving Camelot and you have the kids and then the shepherd and then he's finally by himself. Like that's a great scene. You know what I mean? I love that part. So,
Yeah, even the way he just totally disses the kids who are trying to give him like a little gift or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like, damn, this fool really is.
you're such a dick. I know, like you suck, dude.
Oh man, but this is where the movie really, really turns into like this trippy dream quest character study of a movie. And I don't know where you guys want to go from here. Do you guys kind of want to go through it, or do you just want to bounce around and talk about your favorite moments?
I mean, we could touch on like some of the different because I feel like throughout the quest you have the highlights. You know what I mean? Like the 3 or
Exactly.
4 things that happen.
Yeah, I know that every piece of his quest is kind of
Represents one of like the pillars of knighthood.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I'm well aware of the pillars of knighthood.
Brings
but
out a book.
you know,
Well, let's talk about it.
I can guess what they are. You know,
Yeah.
be nice to people, be charitable,
Yeah,
fucking don't
exactly.
turn your back on others.
I mean, what are they? They're friendship, generosity, chastity, courtesy, and
Yeah.
piety or piety. So, you know, take what you will.
Okay, be a regular nice person.
Exactly, yeah. Chastity.
I think we could just talk
Yeah,
about
chastity.
the representations of each of those
Jedis.
moments. Like, Our first one is Barry Keoghan.
Yeah, dude. Little weirdo comes out being weird as always. Little mouse
always.
man, dude.
Here we go.
Oh no.
Where's the spaghetti plate, huh?
For real though.
So this is not gonna be good.
He's munching on some Getty.
Yeah.
Munching on some
He's-
Getty.
oh, this is
This ain't
isn't
gonna be good.
Yeah, like he's a little trickster.
But
Don't
yeah,
fall for that.
exactly. And I mean, once again, he's presented an opportunity to be knightly, to provide for Barry Keoghan's character, and he asks for a little bit of money, and because he gives him some information on where the the Green Chapel is, and of course he throws him like a penny basically.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Are you fucking kidding
For
me?"
real?
And then they end up jumping his ass. So it's just all these different, like, I know we'll get more into it, but all these different almost subplots or sub things that happen. He's presented with the opportunity to better himself or do something good, and every time he just fucks it up in some way. So
He just doesn't prove himself, but then he does get the lesson after he gets.
yeah,
you
he's
know,
like,
that's
fuck
like,
it."
oh, I see now.
It's like, learn from him, my guy.
He really is like a lovable loser.
He
honestly.
is.
Like, when
You
you're
want
like,
him to
dude,
do
this-
good.
This fucking guy.
You're
Bro,
saying- you're
I want, because it's Dev Patel and he's just like so sweet looking. You know what I mean? You're like, my sweet boy. Just
I
do
know.
the right
It's like
thing.
every time he fucks up, he's like, "Oh man,
yeah.
Like,
Oh, I
damn."
was supposed to not trust.
Bro, I was not
you.
expecting this dude to fucking cry when he was getting jacked by the three little peasant kids. You know what I mean? I was
Tweedledee,
like,
Tweedledum.
okay, he's really not a knight. You know what I
No.
mean? Because this movie like subverts your expectations so much, I was like, all right, cool, he's gonna fuck these fools up right now. You know what I mean? And just
He gets wrecked.
he's crying.
Like you have the Green Knight's axe, and you got wrecked. Like,
you know, his shield gets stomped.
Yeah.
His sword gets taken. You know, they leave the axe because I assume it's too heavy for any of them
Probably.
to actually swing around. But his horse runs off, and honestly, you're left with your first like dream sequence, trippy quest.
really
thing
cool
of,
shot.
That's like I was
Rose
gonna say.
shirt right now
That
that
was
he's
like,
wearing.
did he just die?
One of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
Like that.
Like,
is
was
a-
that it?
That is a question in the movie. Is like, did he just die? And that this is the rest. The rest of this is like a dream sequence.
That
you know?
crazy 360 shot. It's so good. It's so
Yeah.
good.
And it's got that David Lowery touch too, where it sits a little longer.
It's a
than it
little
needs
too
to.
slow, but then it's like, oh, but this works.
But then you're hearing like with the sound design, you're hearing this like warbling of the universe. You're like, wait, how much time has passed?
exactly.
And then it cuts back around, and you see that he's like a decomposed skeleton. So it's like, no one ever even found this dude. You know what I mean? And I just from there, it did leave me questioning the first time. I'm like, wait, did he really die? But he doesn't, and he kind of escapes in a convenient way, which I'm not going to judge the movie for that.
yeah. It needs to be there.
It needs to be there, but this is the first like major fuck up on
Yep.
his quest, and it couldn't be a bigger one, dude. He's left without any supplies, any weapons. He's just got his fucking the axe.
His
and
horse is gone too, is it not?
Yeah, the horse
Yeah.
takes off, and he's kind of just like stumbling through the night,
Yeah.
and eventually this brings him to his second quest.
Yep.
which I
Saint
think-
Winifred. Yeah.
I do think that this is one of like the I don't want to say like that it's more well shot than the others, but I kind of like this sequence maybe better than some of the
Yeah,
others.
this is a good one. I mean, and I don't know. I really like this movie because it feels like each of these little stuff. It's like a video game to me almost. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, now you have to do this. Like, go find the head in the lake and return it to. You know what I mean?
Very video game in nature.
It is.
Right?
He's like, why though? Huh?
And she's like, you bitch. Like, why are you fucking out? I'm dead. This fool cut my head off. He's trying to take advantage of me. And you're going to ask me why? And then he's like, oh, fuck, I fucked up again.
I was supposed to just do it.
I should have just done it.
He said, what are you gonna give me in return if I go get your head?
What?
Why would you ask me that? She literally says, why would you ever ask me that?
Exactly.
You know
He's
what
like,
I mean?
fuck, I don't know. I suck.
Sorry, so no head. Huh?
Exactly. Oh man. I love the way this scene is shot because it looks like a 30s like Dracula movie.
Yeah,
you know what I
it
mean? Like
is.
you get this like sweeping lake and this fog and
Spooky house.
the character standing there like looking over the lake. You know what I mean? It just feels so
Very spectral.
very early Universal, very
Yeah.
like German expressionism.
Very true.
And he dives into the lake to get the head, and I feel like this has to add to those like 6 months that he had, right? Like
Trippiness.
this trippy sequence of like he dives underwater, and of course it's completely red because why not? That's fucking tight.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then we get these, and I mean no disrespect when I say this, like fucking. What's that editing software called, Alvaro? That like some people use to make movies, not Procreate.
Oh, the one that I'm not sure.
Apple
Pro
Movie
Tools,
Maker, no,
whatever.
I don't know.
Something like that. But this was made with like Apple fucking editing. You know what I mean? Like these trippy star sequences and like going hearing the voices in his head like say things. And I just thought that was really cool. That's like that indie stamp. You know what I mean? Of like, okay, I'm gonna add something that like literally anybody could do at home. And I even read that David Lowery just like YouTubed how to make like star effects and
Really?
not Procreate, whatever the fuck it's called. But that's how we get this sequence. And I do think it's like, I don't think it looks bad, but the more I know about it, I'm like, yeah, it does kinda look
Noticeable,
like somebody
yeah.
did it. But I still think it's fucking like sick as fuck.
Yeah, it is really cool.
It adds to that dream sequence of like when he comes back out from the lake. What happened?
Yeah,
You know,
where-
was any of this real? Like that's kind of the overlaying theme of all of this movie. Is like, is this real or is this all in his head? Because
True.
Winifred's gone and we just see a fox.
Yeah.
So I've always questioned, like, is Winifred the fox? Is she not the fox?
I don't know.
I always thought the mom was the fox.
That's kind of what I think. I don't know. I think like a lot of these things that guide him on this journey, like the fox and like even like that sightless woman towards the end in that other castle. Like I feel like it's his mom in some way. Either way, it's like some sort of magic connection. You know what I mean? And maybe magic is all connected in a way, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, almost every, like, magical person in this movie besides Merlin is a woman. Mm-hmm. Like, even the fox, like, I assumed that that's supposed to be, like, a female
It sounds
fox.
female at least, yeah.
Yeah, the sightless woman, the mom, Saint Winifred. We don't really see too much magic from, like, men in this movie. Like, Merlin, it's the slightest touch.
Right.
It's just that vibe check.
Exactly,
But-
yeah.
So I don't know, Ro. What do you think? Do you think that Saint like Winifred is the fox, or do you think it's the mom, or do you think it's like a combination of like kind of what Nate's saying, like all magic kind of being tied together?
Yeah, I think it's just all magic being tied together. It's like its own entity, but it just knows whatever the witch or whatever magic knows. I do think it's a separate entity. I don't think it's Saint Winifred or that's necessarily exactly the mom either. It's kind of like almost like branches of her in a way.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they're all like, you know, because I mean, the Green Knight magic himself, you know what I mean? And like, they all kind of like have this inkling for like, he's on this quest to do something related in this magical realm, maybe, and they kind of help him or guide him or maybe not, because like the sightless woman doesn't guide him, but she's present and is watching. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I wonder if she's there to kind of like see if he stays on his quest, or if he's just gonna stay in this house forever.
or if he like takes her as a reminder because he sees her after. Oh, we'll get to that, but
Yeah.
and he's like, "What the
We're
fuck?"
on Winifred,
I know,
we're on
yeah.
but because like the fox does seem to be a test for him, you know, because he shows up and goes away and shows up and goes away, but then at the end, the last time he sees him, it seems like it's a test. The whole time the fox was a test, which obviously
it is like a video game. He keeps getting lost, and the fox is like, "This way."
Yeah, exactly. It's like your point marker. It's like, where you going, bro?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you need a cute animal companion. to
There
show
is
you the way?
nothing over here.
So with Winifred too, the reason I think maybe they're all kind of connected in some way is when he goes back inside and he lays the head down and he kind of reconnects it to the body or whatever. The head falls on the floor and Winifred's like, he sees you, like he knows you're on the way, and that's really what made me think that they have to be all connected because it's kind of like this message from the Green Knight or like from the mom.
Exactly.
I haven't really been able to figure that out all the way.
And honestly, what it could be too is like, I mean, you got to think of it like maybe an overarching thing with the Green Knight, like these tests along the way. Like the Green Knight is almost, or the magic itself is constantly testing him because he's like bound to this magical agreement. Maybe, you know, I don't know, something like that.
And I believe that brings us to our like.
That's when he eats the shrooms, right?
No, but it's a what do they call them? The breaks in the middle of movies.
Like an interlude or intermission.
Yeah, it literally says an interlude.
Yeah.
And then we just see him like still wandering,
Traversing
and,
the
like, he
land.
looks lost as fuck. Like he's just
He's hungry.
yeah.
He's kind of withering away a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if this brings us to the shroom scene or not, but I'm down to talk about that scene.
Yeah,
right now, 'cause that shit is sick.
this scene, I mean, you know, obviously he's starving. They find some mushrooms. Him and the fox eat it, and they kind of just trip the fuck out. It is because I think the giants happen after.
It is because what
Yeah.
happens is that he's like just traversing the land and he slips and falls.
Yes.
And then when he slips and falls, he's like looking at this rock structure, and then the edit fades into the mushrooms, and he's just starving at this point.
And they eat the mushrooms, and then they kind of, you know, whatever, they trip out, and this leads to one of, it still is, I haven't seen as like a shot or a scene that has like it's not impacted me, but just like wowed me as much as this does, is when he's sitting there and the green lightning's going on in the background, and all of a sudden like the Green Knight is like popping up in the flashes of lightning. That shit is so fucking visually appealing to me. Like that is like, to me, like that is cinema. Like, what is this? Like, oh my god.
Very Kino.
That was one of the hardest scenes for the VFX artist to pull off, we're saying, because that tree that he sees is just a tree that David Lowery had seen walking up there, and he had shown it like, I need it to be like this, and they kept, and it's trying to get those clouds perfect, trying to get, because he shot he shot the shot during daytime, so it was about trying to change it into night and change it into the lightning being green. He kept talking about, he's like, I want the thunder, but I don't want the lightning, and then he would like change his mind all the time, and it was just one of the hardest ones to pull off. But I think, yeah, I agree with you. It's just that really shows the trippy part of the movie.
Yeah,
it takes that off after the shrooms, and then
it's so haunting.
It is. It's like it's foreboding. It's like, I have to go face this. Like,
and the way the music sets in, like, we haven't even talked about the music. It's composed by Daniel Hart.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's a great soundtrack.
It
It's
is.
not necessarily like a banger that you would listen to.
No.
Be like, damn,
But-
bro. I
but
listened
for
to
the movie-
the harpsichords when I was doing the dishes. Like,
Exactly.
but it sets in like so. You know what it kind of reminded me of? And I know it doesn't really tie together at all, but it just gave me that same feeling of not exactly horror, but just that foreboding. It's like when you're in the elevator of the haunted mansion and it goes down and it opens those doors, right? I kind of feel like for Gawain, it's that moment of like remembering what he's here for and like, fuck, I have to go see the Green Knight.
And like, what
Oh,
I don't
man, I don't want to do this.
Exactly. Like, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but like, because like that is what his thought is about what he's gonna go face, right? You know, like the Green Knight is this
Green
creature and like this monster and this thing that is surrounded by lightning and darkness. And then compared to what happens in the end and what it truly is and what he truly represents, it's just so different. It's such a switch. And like, I just think it's so cool.
Yes, very. I mean, it just subverts every expectation you would have, right? But did we cut you off, Ro? Were you about to move on or say something else?
I don't remember.
Does this bring us to the Giants?
Because he
though?
wakes up and then he keeps walking and he runs into the Giants, I think. Because we had talked about it after. We're like, are the Giants part of like this remaining trip that he's having? Are those real? Like, you don't really know.
I'm starting to now lose track of if the Giants are before or after he gets to the Lord's house.
They're before.
They're before,
Yeah,
right?
they are
Okay,
before.
so he wants the quick little hack of like, I'm gonna.
Can I hitch a ride?
The fox is like, no, you may not.
Yeah, exactly.
You weren't supposed to getting free rides on your way to the Green Knight, but that scene, also, we're gonna say it many times, very trippy.
Yeah.
Very interesting. The Giants kind of seem like these very like peaceful creatures.
Mm-hmm.
They look probably the most human I've ever seen like Giants really portrayed. They don't have that Attack on Titan look.
No.
They don't have that like gigantism looking.
Exactly.
Like, disease, you
These
know
are
what I
like
mean?
some massive ass people.
Yeah, for real. And but we do see that they really are like an embodiment of nature because they can understand the fox.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really understand why it was there, just other than being like really fucking cool.
Yeah.
but I fucking loved it.
Yeah, I did too. Like,
Yeah.
it really did. And they looked really good, honestly. And that's, sometimes the CGI in this movie we talked about, it's a little hit or miss. But I thought they looked really good. The
Well,
blending with the fog and the clouds.
So now that we're here, I mean, the only other CGI I think is the fox itself. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's like,
sometimes.
it looks a little animatronic-y, but then it also looks like very CGI.
Mhm.
But it is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a story about Green Knights and magic and giants. Like, of course, the fox doesn't look real.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's just that and the grass. Those were the only two things where I felt like maybe it was as good as they could do, or maybe should have just went a little harder. right
Yeah,
there.
true.
But we get to Joel Edgerton, which is another really interesting point in the story because is he also an embodiment of the Green Knight? You know what I mean? The game that he plays with Gawain
It's a very interesting one.
is much like the game that he plays with the Green Knight.
Yeah. Whatever I do for you, or whatever you get, you share with me. Like, vice, you know what I mean? Like, that sharing of whatever happens with you, happens with me.
And this is like a real test of his morality because when he gets there, he realizes that the lady of this castle is his girlfriend, but rich.
Yeah, she kind of, yeah, exactly.
It's also Alicia Vikander, which is another thing I kind of don't understand. I'm like, why? You know, like is she also connected to magic in a way that like
Maybe.
only women are in this movie? I still don't know, but we have this really great monologue that kind of embodies like the whole theme of this movie. I mean, I don't have it written down or anything, but you got to go check this shit out if you've never
Yeah.
seen it. But it really just lays out the entire like idea of what this movie means, and also how there could be two differing perspectives on what all of this even means.
Exactly.
But do either of you guys have like notes on that kind of stuff? I kind of just
Not
wanted to skirt
necessarily.
it because it's
Not
so
really.
deep.
Not necessarily, especially on that. But
On why they're the same character?
No. Like her monologue about like, you know, green and all of that and what it means and why not red and what is the Green Knight, and she kind of goes on this long, you know, monologue of what she thinks it is at least.
yeah, I mean, because she's basically saying like, because he was like, I don't know if it was her husband or Dev Patel, but they were saying like, I don't think he's of this earth, and she's like, well, of course he's of this earth, and you know, green is life and green is also death, and she was like saying like, you know, when you'll have green creep in through the cracks and you scrub it out, but no matter what, it always comes through. So I think kind of what she's talking about is the fact that like what he's faced, his destiny with the Green Knight. Like, is it life? Is it death? It could be seen as both, but no matter what, like you're not gonna be able to get rid of it because it's a force of nature and it's something they're gonna have to deal with. I think that's kind of what I took from it. But it's a really good monologue.
Yeah, I would say it's probably like the headiest moment in this movie.
It
Like,
is.
let's really sit here and kind of break down
What is
this
life? What is
about.
nature?
Yeah,
How, Can you
exactly.
run from it? Can you stop it? Like, no, you can't. Like, no matter what, nature is always going to find a way, you know?
I love Joel Edgerton's performance.
I do, yeah.
Like, I just like
He's a little weirdo, too, dude. give me a little kissy.
You ever seen? What did you say? You ever seen a hawk pick up a horse? It's terrible.
What the fuck are you talking about? They seem like they're like locked away in this castle, is kind of being weird, but it's interesting.
And like the way that this like castle stuff is shot too, you can tell they're using different lenses. You could tell there's different like aspect ratios going on and stuff because it almost looks like a change has happened. You know what I mean? Like we're kind of out of this trippy dream sequences, and now he's kind of in reality. But then, is he really?
Yeah,
You
I
know
don't
what
know.
I mean?
Like, are these people even real? Like, you know,
Yeah.
like it's interesting.
I mean, and this is a lot. This scene is bigger in the novel, and it's kind of like a really big part of the story. It's because, much like the Green Knight and the knighthood and the 5 points and blah blah blah, like Gawain kind of has to go through that while he's here in this house. It's like a sub quest that's the same as the regular quest,
Right.
and of course he fails.
Yeah, sure does.
And we have not even brought this up yet, but this man walks around with the dirty cum rag on his, on his waist.
Oh, dude. Jesus Christ.
Which is a moment we've kind of skipped over, but
He fails chastity. He has
yeah,
failed.
He's no knight.
Yeah, no. It's just
He
it's
just makes messes.
yeah. It's just so interesting. Like the game that he's playing with Joel Egerton's character, like he basically tells him like whatever I will feed you as long as you're here. Whatever the forest gives me, I'll give you. But in return, whatever you receive from my house, you give to me. And that's when the Joel Egerton's wife, his girlfriend, air quotes, whatever.
His lady, bro.
She's laying it thick on him. You know what I mean? Like she really.
Hey. And then he lays it thick on her.
Oh no. But
Oh, man.
yeah, dude, and and that's basically when Dev Patel's character he dips out. He's like, I can't do this. He once again realizes that he's failed.
There's too many trippy, weird things going on in this house, even though it's supposed to be like a rest.
And that's why, like, you have that sightless lady, too, which begs, like, who is she? What is she doing? Is she the only one there? Are these people figments of her magic? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of questions left from this place.
Yeah, I know.
But, yeah.
So what I wanted to bring up though was what I wanted to bring up though about this house kind of seeming like it's an escape from the weird, but then it not being one. It's just all of the things that you see in there of like, and one of the most interesting sequences is when she does the painting of Gawain, and she literally just uses like light. Like I don't.
It's
That's
like-
what it looks like,
yeah,
right?
so, like,
she
almost
just
kinda
uses-
takes a picture of some
like
sort.
She captures it with light, and then he's upside down, and it's this really interesting
It's cool.
green color, and he kind of looks like the Green Knight in the picture. You know what I mean? And then like the sightless lady. I kind of wondered if she's supposed to be like a like in the beginning of The Great Gatsby when they talk about that billboard with the eyes that sees everything.
Yeah.
Like I always wondered if she was like kind of meant to be that. Like,
I can see that,
but I've also thought it was supposed to be the mom too. Like,
Yeah.
just checking in on his journey.
which is terrifying.
Yeah.
what have you done?
Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, after that, he dips out because, he freaks out.
Not without a kiss.
Not without a kiss.
Not without a kiss.
And that's when, he runs into Joel Egerton's character. He's like, well, you got to give me a little kissy kiss. He's like, I know what you got up in there. And once again, he fails again. He didn't kiss him.
I like when he's like, I know what you have, and he's like, and I think I could take it from you. One
So
of my
funny,
favorite
dude.
lines in cinema after the kiss, unhand me.
God damn, dude.
But even there, like Gawain, like bro, maybe he liked it, maybe he doesn't. But the fact that he just like let it happen to him,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like at this point in his quest, do you think he would stop letting things happen to him,
Yeah.
and that he would start being more proactive?
He really is
But
just rolling with the punches.
I have to make my appointment. Bye.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
God
man.
damn.
We don't really talk about deleted scenes, but I always wish we would have gotten a little more of this because there's that wonderful image of Dev Patel holding like the gigantic heart, and I always wanted to see what that was. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I'm pretty sure it's from like the big bison that's like laying on the ground or whatever. but
Probably.
I could have gone with a little more Joel Edgerton because that really is one of the weirder side parts of this
It is.
quest.
It's kind of like, wait, what is going on?
Turns into this like modern weird love triangle of like, do they all kind of like each other? Do none of them like each other? You know what I mean? But it kind of brings us to our final, like not our final moment, but
Close to it.
the moment, dude.
Yeah.
Like he's like, fuck, I have to go do this. I have to go see the Green Knight. And more interesting cinematography, dude. The yellow, so
I know.
good, so fucking
For real.
good. This movie has a way of just looking so magical by using these really simple techniques of like, let's just use red.
Let's change
just
the
use
color
green.
up. Yeah, it's like, all right, well, that works.
And you know, our fox comes back.
And speaks to him.
Yeah, speaks to him and kind of gives him like an ultimatum. Like, do you want to, you know, you could turn around right now and tell everybody you did this, and I'm not gonna say shit.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Like,
I thought it was funny.
I'm not going to
Yeah,
snitch.
and like, you know, she says something along the lines of like, you could go home and see your song to be sung like as you see fit,
Mm-hmm.
or you know, you can face this, but you're probably not gonna make it out alive because you know he is wilder than I am. He's not like, you know, she's just laying it down. Like,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Kind of speaks facts. Like, you're going to die right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're approaching your death, I think is what she says. But, or death awaits you or some shit like that. But, which is interesting because you see him, he keeps failing these little tests time after time after time, but he stays on his main one. You know, like he is, for whatever reason, whatever force is driving him at this point, whether it's just like, I keep failing, I have to do this. Like, he stays on the fact that he has to go fulfill this thing with the Green Knight, and he, in his head, he's facing death. So I think that's interesting that he keeps going no matter how many times he fails.
I think the fox pissing him off the whole movie was kind of just like that last final straw of like, I'm doing this.
Yeah, fuck it,
this.
I'm going.
Yeah. Just because he has failed all of these tests, and it's just, I don't know. It's such an interesting thing to make your character like such a loser. You know what I
Mm-hmm. But
mean?
then
Like,
still want him to, like, you still side by him almost. You know what I mean?
yeah. He gets to the chapel.
Mm-hmm.
And
He's a little early.
He has to wait like a day,
A few
day and a
days, yeah,
half.
whatever it is. And he, could you imagine just sitting there looking at the person that you think's going to kill you for a few days? Like, just thinking about that? Like, bruh.
I
God.
really love the way that this scene is shot as well too. Like the set design, so good. I think her name is what I have it written down here. Jade Healy. The way they designed this set with like all the foliage
Yep.
and the ivy and just like it's like a perfect fantasy shot.
It
You know
is.
what I mean? Like it looks like something you would see on the cover of a book.
Yep.
Or like when you're flipping through like medieval art or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Like,
that.
oh, that's sick. Yeah.
Yeah,
Some
like
stained glass or something. Like,
Exactly, and the fact that it sits for so long, it's just like, it's like visual crack. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just gonna take
I
all
like
of
this.
and, like, I watch this for 10 more
Yeah,
minutes.
exactly. And like, yeah, dude, and it's just, it really is the place that you would think the Green Knight comes from. Like this far off place in the middle of nowhere, just, you know, decrepit, but also taken over by nature, like, you know, dead, but also beautiful and alive. Like, it's this weird mix of what the Green Knight is. Like, you don't know, is he dead? Is he alive? What
it
is
kinda
he?
looks like something you would see in like Wizard of Oz or like Labyrinth or like the
Yeah,
Dark Crystal or something.
yeah,
where
Dark
it's like,
Crystal would be,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? Where it just feels so
Fantastical.
exactly like the fact that he like grows into nature and all
Yeah.
of that. Like it just it totally gives me that like Jim Henson.
Because, like, he's probably been sitting in that chair for a year. You know what I mean? He probably rode away from Camelot and has just been chilling and growing into the place. It's cool.
And now I wait.
Yeah, all right, we'll see what happens.
And you know, I'm sure you guys both noticed off the first viewing of like the face of the Green Knight kind of changing throughout the night and things like that. I feel like it looks a little like Dev Patel at one point. I feel like it definitely looks like Joel Edgerton at one point. What do you guys really think is kind of going on there? Like it's just is Dev Patel supposed to be like an embodiment of the Green Knight himself too? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it just kind of plays in the back what we were talking about like the magic as a whole. Like, you know, all these things probably being interconnected, and all these tests and experiences and magic are like, they're all leading up to this one big thing, and it's all been this test of, can you change? Are you willing to, like, you know, do the right thing? And it's probably just, I think it's something like that.
You have anything, Ro? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good explanation there, and that's all. Like, it's just happening because it's magical. I don't really think it's
Like meant to say anything?
And this is when before he wakes up, he looks like them.
Well, when Gawain is sitting there in the nighttime, the Green Knight kind of opens his eyes, but he doesn't acknowledge him. He just kind of looks at him, and you notice, like, as the light reflects on his face from different angles, how his face is like kind of ever changing. You know what I mean? Like, he looks like the Green Knight, but then he kind of looks like a little like Dev Patel, and then he kind of really looks like Joel Edgerton at one point. And I don't know, maybe it's just like because he's like this magical entity that's like resting. You're kind of seeing like his. I don't even know. You know what I mean? Like, is he like running through his magic for the night? Like, I really don't understand that point, but I just find it very, very like appealing.
Yeah, it is really cool. It looks really good.
I mean, this kind of just brings us to
The finale, basically.
our moment.
Yeah, the Green Knight wakes up, and he's like, "Oh, you're here. It must be Christmas."
What day is this, good sir?
Yeah, he's just so casual, and that's what I really like about the Green Knight is you get the change from the beginning where it's like we talked about, it's almost a horror element, like it's almost like this man is scary, and then it's just like he's just kind of this dude, you know, almost. He's like, "Well, what's up? Like, it must be Christmas. It's
sir.
good to see you."
He
Yeah.
calls him good sir. You know, the debt has to be repaid, obviously, but this is where the movie once again subverts your expectations, right? Because you would maybe think on the first viewing, like, okay, maybe now I'm gonna get a fight, but no, you don't. The last thing you expect is that this guy's gonna take off, run away.
He's like, "Fuck this, I'm out. I'm done. No, I shouldn't have done this." Yeah.
You know, he's at the end of this quest. How many days do you think this thing took overall? Like
I don't
4 or
even
5
know.
days?
Maybe longer. I'm not sure.
Maybe,
I kind of think
right?
of him like maybe each thing that happened was a day, but not too sure.
It doesn't really do a good job of setting you up to know that, because like some sequences are in the day, some are at night, but it never really connects if like how long has he been wandering in the interlude? You know what I mean? Like, how long did he have to go through the forest? Like, for a whole night?
Mm-hmm.
But he's still not ready at this point. Like, nothing has stuck with him for this past like hour and 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. And then he takes off and he goes back to Camelot.
Or so we think.
So we think, yeah.
You know, this is once again one of those like trippy head sequences, right? This is all in his head. It's Gawain is sitting there on his knees, like a beta. Kind of just picturing like, what life could I have like if I go back and just live this lie. And I don't know, is this the best sequence in the whole movie?
It's a really good one.
It's up there.
Yeah,
right?
it
Like,
is.
I think it's as up there with the like Camelot Round Table.
Yeah, I would agree.
And we see a whole lifetime pass. You know, he has a baby with Essel.
Yep. Dude, that shit's fucked up.
Totally fucked, man. They trade the kid for some coin.
Yep.
Merlin's like, "This is mine."
Yeah, snatches that little babe, and Essel, yeah, she kind of, you know, withers away, and you see that, you know, Gawain's son ends up dying in battle, and then Essel, you know,
Guess that magic wasn't
denounces
that powerful,
him.
bro.
Yeah, she denounces him, and, you know, their kingdom is like falling apart basically, and then
He marries for, I don't want to say
Clout.
for land. Yeah, but like, you know,
Clout, yeah.
to further the family line, he marries an outside family.
Mm-hmm.
They have a daughter. That's some cool post-credit stuff at the end. Wasn't expecting that.
Mm-hmm.
And we just see how like the kingdom keeps failing and failing and failing because
Yeah.
I mean,
He never
how
learned.
could it succeed with this guy as their leader? Right?
he never learned, yeah. And that's why, you know, and then towards the end of this sequence, he finally takes off, which I think is interesting because the whole time he's had the cum rag tied around him, you know what I mean?
belt stays on during
the
sex.
thing, yeah, the thing that's supposed to, because it's like a protection spell. Like no matter when you have this on, nothing's gonna harm you. And it's almost like he never was able to get past that. Like he was never able to grow up and be like, no, I can protect myself. And so finally in this sequence, he takes it off and his head comes off.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean,
it-
the fact that he even keeps it on during sex too shows you how guarded he is.
yeah, how
You know what I mean?
scared he
Like,
is and
if I take
insecure.
this off as the Green, I gotta go chop my head off.
Exactly, like how worried he is and how insecure he is with himself and inside himself, and because he's never done what he is supposed to
And then
do.
this is even well into his old age. Like,
Yeah.
he's decrepit and old like Arthur, you know? Did either of you expect the movie to end with the head just
I
falling
kind of
off?
did, and I was so happy that
Bro.
it didn't. But
Yeah. Or like the movie completely finished.
Yeah, I'd be
there?
like, that's so A24, huh? I'd be like, if the movie just
you
ended with his head
fuckers.
falling off.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Just because it has like, there's no way it ends in a trip sequence. But that would have been, I could see how that could be expected without. Just because I was like, there needs to what's going on here, right? But yeah,
On my first viewing too, I was in my head when I'm watching it. I'm like, oh shit, is that like the Green Knight breaking through the door? Like, you know, like the second he takes the belt off, it's like,
Yeah.
on sight. I've been waiting for you. You know what I mean?
No, I like it.
You
'Cause
even see the upside down painting in the background
Yeah.
too, like that. This is something that he has kept for many years.
exactly. He's like living in this, lie almost.
Ah.
And and then his head comes off, and that's when I think it finally clicks in his brain. Like, if I don't make a change or do something now, my whole life is going to continue to be the same thing that it is, and it's going to end in the same thing that would happen now. So I might as well face my destiny or fate, and whatever happens is going to happen. And that's when you get the end of the movie, basically.
The Green Knight, he's a cheeky little guy.
He is a
He's
cheeky
like-
little bastard. You little son of a bitch.
I think my favorite moment in that is when Gawain keeps doing the like, no, I'm not ready. Like he keeps getting up every time the Green Knight's gonna cut off his head. He's like, sir, you flinch?
Yeah, he's like, I did not do this to you. He's like, but one of my favorite, I think my favorite line of the movie is when, I don't know if it happened before that trip scene or after, and when Dev Patel is like, is this all that there is? And the Green Knights is like, well, what else ought there be? He's like, I
Yeah.
told you what it was,
It's that like cementing of adulthood of like, oh fuck, my life might not be.
Is
what
this
I thought It was
it?
gonna
It's like,
be.
well, what fuck do you think it is? Like, this is life. This is what you decided. The consequences of the choices that you made. Like, what else is gonna happen?
You wanted to be a party guy for 25 years or however old he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, man, that fucking. Is this all there is? Like, it feels so depressing from Dev Patel's point of view, but because the Green Knight is like the embodiment of nature, and nature not giving a shit about any of man's plans or devices. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Of like, what else did you think like life would be?
And I think that's kind of what like makes it click in his head. He's like, well, all right, and then he sees that in that trip sequence. He's like, this is all that there is. So, and then
he finally takes off the rag.
yeah, he
It's just
does.
a dirty old rag.
Yeah, get the fuck shit out of here, crusty.
And I mean, I guess because his mom made this test, it's like that is him passing the test.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, good, you took this off. Good for you. And you get this really weird ending of the Green Knight just doing a little cut on the neck and going,
Off with your head.
yeah, off with your head.
Because he
And
goes
then-
up to kill, like, cut his head off, and Dev Patel's ready, and yeah, he gives him a little slice, and he's like, all right.
Then you get your cute little fantasy Adventure Time music, and it ends.
And it ends. And it's just like, you don't get to see the repercussions of it, but you finally see that, Gawain was able to pass the test and to do what was right and to be a knight
So-
and to not run away from his issues.
I've been thinking about this the entire time because I wanted to bring it back to you with this row. Is like what you were saying is like the beginning sequence of the voice, and it's telling you everything that's gonna happen, and that it leaves the ending not open ended.
Mm-hmm.
Can you break that down for me?
Oh, just because obviously he's a king in the first image.
Yeah.
So he succeeded. He passed his test. Everything. His kingdom has succeeded. This is a story of how he grew to finally understand and grow into that king that we see in the beginning.
Nice.
Big
nice.
facts.
It and that obviously sounds like so plausible and like, oh shit, duh, right? But it's the fact that David Lowery keeps like he harped on the point of like, no, this is open ended. I want you to like, how do you think it ends? But it does feel like it's tied up pretty like.
I think so.
With a nice little bow. Like,
Yeah, I think
okay,
so.
well-
I think he probably goes on to become king and, does a decent job at least.
You know, for me, it doesn't take anything away from the movie, but I guess I could see for maybe somebody else that it'd be like, that's it. That's his whole quest was like he just had to face his fears, and now he's gonna be a good king. But
I would have felt like that if it ended with the whole,
head rolling off.
the fast forwarding of time and him dying as a king. Like, that's how I would have felt. But with this, it's like, all right, I fuck with that. Like, I love that. So
yeah, that's more of that subverting expectations, dude. The last thing I wanted to bring up, plot wise or story wise, was we get a post credit sequence of the princess picking up the crown, putting it on, and like, are we gonna get the Green Knight too?
exactly, the Brown Knight.
They MCUified the Green Knight, dude.
Man.
Oh man, but I think we all walked out of this movie just like ecstatic. You know
Giddy,
what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's like, let's fucking go, yeah.
2 minutes. We were like that meme of the group of guys just sitting there, and then at the end, they're like, hands are up, like they're cheering
Exactly.
for sports. Like, I feel like that's kind of how we all walked
Yeah.
out of, like, that was refreshing. That was like a bonding experience.
It
for
was.
all of us.
It's almost like a feel-good movie at the end. It's like, all right, we're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
We have the chance to change, you know.
Oh,
It's
man.
so good.
Pick up your bootstraps. Stop coming in your hand.
Take
and
your
be a man.
take your damn rag off. Get rid of your cum rag and be a man.
Oh man. This is honestly one of the best times I ever had at the movies. I saw this hella times at the movies. I saw the screening room. I bought it the day it came out on Blu-ray, and I've seen this movie so many fucking times.
Yep.
Like, this honestly is okay. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, this is the best movie of all time, but I do think that this legitimately is my favorite movie of all time.
In my eyes, it's a perfect movie. Like, I think I'll enjoy every time I watch this movie. It's something I'd recommend to people. It's just so like I don't know. I know people. Not everybody likes it, but like, how could you not? So
Well, I mean, you know, art's subjective, of course.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you felt like you were mismarketed to, or like this was a huge misdirection of what you thought you were going to see, I could see how that's going to turn you off. But I felt like if you just like, you know, let it wash over you,
Right.
and fucking just kind of, okay, I'm in this story now. That it's just so fucking good, dude. Like, I honestly think that this is like, this should be a Criterion movie one day. That this is like historically important to the art form. You know, blah blah blah.
I think so too.
All of that stuff.
It's just so
dude.
cool to see something that was done so fucking long. It's like, you know, you see Shakespeare done over and over again, like with Macbeth. Like, you see it and it's still like, all right, that was tight. You know what I mean? But you have something that was done in the 14th century. They're doing it in 2021, and it's still relatable. It's still so well done. It's just a story that, like we talked about earlier, it's just so rooted in everything that's done nowadays. Like,
I know you really liked this movie when we first saw it, Alvaro, but you did tell me the last time you watched it that you liked it even more, like since time had passed, right?
Yeah, I think I just catch more things that I didn't catch in the first viewing, and kind of knowing what type of film that you're getting from it after being for 2 years of excitement. And I think maybe even some of the stuff that you brought up, like the big heart, I was like, that was a promo pick for a long time, but I was like, what does that come from? Obviously, stuff before maybe you're like, that's a dragon heart or whatever it may be, right? But all of those stuff, like dropping all of those expectations, waiting, because the first time it came out in theaters, I think I watched it 4 times, but it was kind of taking that long pause and having to think about it for the podcast. So I think I own the steelbook for it. It has a lot of the behind the features,
that's sick.
or behind the scenes, a lot of features that kind of had just David Lowery talking about the methodical thinking that went into it. And I think that just ultimately makes me like the movie more, because you can kind of just tell how much effort was put into this. And then I can kind of see a lot of what he was going for based off of him talking about him. Like, oh, I see. It's like a well executed to that's what he was going for, you know? So I
Much
think I
like
respect
Robert
that.
Eggers, it's like, bro, you really understand how to tell these stories, or like you understand these old ass stories that like most people are not even thinking about
Yeah.
anymore. And like, nah, bro, it peaked in the 14th century. Like, bro, the Green Knight is the only story that needs to be written.
Yeah,
you know what I
exactly.
mean? And I know that this whole idea and story all came from a sketch that David Lowery did on his iPad.
Oh, yeah.
Of a knight riding a horse.
Mhm.
And then he was just like, fuck, like I really want to make like an Arthurian movie, but I don't want to do the been there, done that, which I find ironic because this movie has been adapted like 6 different
Yeah, it
times.
has.
The one I saw in high school is one of the worst ones. It's called Sword of the Valiant. And it's got fucking Sean Connery's the Green Knight.
Does it? Oh my
Yeah.
god.
And he looks like the Lou Ferrigno Hulk, you know what I mean? Like he's got like a beard instead of like the
And he's
leaves
just, like,
and the
green.
branches and everything. Yeah, they just painted a guy green.
So bad.
You know what I mean?
So bad.
And then like in terms of the Gawain succession, the last Gawain that we really see that anybody would know was that Liam Neeson played him in Excalibur. And I would say watch this movie, of course, if you haven't, but also see Excalibur because that movie fucking rips, dude.
Yeah.
Fucking love that movie as well. That was we did this pod so I could plug Excalibur. But yeah, man, just David Lowery. I couldn't be more appreciative of like this movie. You know what I mean? Like it's very rare that I watch a movie where I'm like it feels like it was made for me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, dude, this guy just knew exactly what I
You
want.
get me. That's my first note I have is my kind of movie. For real though.
I'm excited for what he does in the future. I mean, I would go back and watch more of the things he's done in the past, but I would say I'm way more excited for his
The future stuff.
future endeavors.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's got the Peter Pan movie going straight to Disney Plus. How are you gonna do my boy like that?
I
bro?
know, what the
You
fuck,
direct the
but-
Green Knight, and your next shit is straight to streaming.
Yeah, that's Disney though. What are you gonna do with their shit?
And I like this movie so much and David Lowery so much that I'm assuming that the Peter Pan movie is going to be very good.
I
Not
hope
just
so.
like, oh, you know, it's whatever.
You could
But
do a lot of cool shit with that. So
It
curious to see what
seems
he
kind of
does.
right up this alley too. It's like it's fantastical,
Yep.
but it's pirates. You know, I'm just really excited
Tight
for
pirates.
David Lowery. Yeah, pirates. Don't even get me started. We could do all of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies if you guys want.
I would be down.
Closing thoughts, final thoughts. I mean, now that you've had time to sit with this movie, how do you guys feel about it? You know, just whatever you got to get out, man. Now's the time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I pretty much said I feel like everything I want to. This movie is incredible, visually stunning. I love these movies about, becoming a better person and going through those trials and tribulations to better yourself and better the people around you. I always find those to be very, I don't know, it's relatable. It's something that everybody can, get behind. That's why I really liked Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's something kind of reminds me of that in a way. But if you haven't seen this movie, check it out. Honestly, recommend maybe reading a little bit into the lore behind The Green Knight so you can get a little baseline for it. Or don't and go see it and read it after. But phenomenal movie. I think it has something for everybody in it. I love this.
And bro, you got some final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's not too many night movies we get all that are too good, right? We got The Last Duel and this in the last year. So if you compare the two, there's vastly different. And I think this really does take its time to be a fantasy film more than anything. And a lot of the questions you might have, or a lot of its simplicity, really comes from trying to dissect human themes and emotions that, we still...
That we've been questioning since the 14th century.
Like that we've been questioning, and then kind of, putting it in a way that we haven't been presented it. And I can't really think of any other film that really has this type of like themes or like nights and this type of time setting that would really do it this way. So I really think that's why it stands out to me. It's unique, and
Yeah, man. I'm kind of glad we waited a year to do this. This was probably going to be like our first episode. That's what we had thought. But then, you know how the cycle of movies goes. It felt like it was like, well, fuck, now Titan is out, Lamb is out. Like, it just feels like no one cares about this anymore. But
Kind of scared to touch it.
yeah, and that was another thing, too. I'm also glad we waited almost a full year of doing the podcast to do this episode, because I know we wanted to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we would have if it was our first episode.
Probably not.
But I'm glad we have waited a year, because now that this movie maybe isn't as in the public light as it would be before, I think, it's people like us who do these pods to champion the things we really like. And I feel like that was like the mission today. You know what I mean? Is to make people want to see this movie, to spread the good word about
Exactly.
about the Green Knight.
Give a little resurgence.
Yeah, definitely. I saw that tweet from that guy who said, "Why aren't more people talking about the Green Knight?" We are.
We've been talking about it.
And we haven't stopped.
Exactly.
But I give it a 5. I don't know how you guys.
It's a
feel.
5, yeah. To me, it's perfect. I wouldn't
I
change
really-
anything
yeah,
about
I
it.
think so. I mean, not the best movie ever, but my favorite.
It's a perfect movie for what it is. I don't think it could have been done any better. I think it could have been done a lot worse. You know what I mean? So it was perfect.
Could have been Guy Ritchie's King Arthur.
Exactly. For
But
real.
yeah, man, like, subscribe, comment. Let us know if you like this movie. Let us know why you don't like this movie.
What was your favorite
I
part?
could probably guess why you don't like this movie.
Yeah.
But yep, thanks for checking back in. We're checking out.
Later.
Later.
See ya.